All right, are you ready for the next session? Let's bring on our wonderful discussion that we're going to have here about the DNA of the diaspora in a different way. Same nation, different diaspora. And to lead this conversation, Warsha Sardjoe is here from Suriname. Warsha, please come on up. And she'll be in conversation with Shanthini Naidoo of Australia. Warsha is an accomplished business leader and runs one of the Caribbean's most prominent companies. It's called Rudisa Group of Companies, and she oversees a portfolio of 29 companies in Suriname. Welcome. And we're also joined by Shanthini Naidoo, who is the CEO of St. Vincent's Curran Foundation, one of Australia's most successful healthcare philanthropy and fundraising organizations. They're going to have a fireside chat. Please welcome Warsha and Shanthini.
Thank you, Shri, for that nice introduction. I have with me Shanthini, and we're both very happy to be here. And we have a very different story than probably most of you, since we're both fourth generation Indian in our country. Our story is a little different. Our ancestors came as indentured workers to our countries. So basically, we do not have the same story that our families left to look for business outside. Our ancestors left to look for a better life in a country that they didn't even know existed at that time. So my ancestors thought they were going to the land of Sri Ram because the country was called Suriname. And then they ended up in South America, in the middle of the jungle, planting sugarcane. So that was about in the mid-19th century. And now, 100 and something years later, I'm sitting here in front of you as one of the biggest companies of the Caribbean thank you. That shows the resilience of our people and how our DNA influences how we lead the countries and the nations that we come from. Even though we have no direct relationship anymore with India, the heritage that has been instilled in us through all these generations is still evident in our success. So with this, I would like you, Shanthini, to give a little background on your heritage as well.
Thanks, Warsha. So yes, Shanthini and my family were taken as indentured labourers to South Africa, to Durban, along with many others in the early 1800s, to work as banana and sugarcane plantation workers. Of course, you would be aware, everyone, of the incredible role that Mahatma Gandhi played in fighting for the rights of Indians in South Africa, arriving there in 1893, and he lived there for 21 years. And the role that he played in fighting for the civil rights of Indians in South Africa was quite incredible, and of course started his political career. And towards the end of his time there, he started the Natal Indian Congress, which was a group which continued work throughout the apartheid era of South Africa. So my family, along with many other Indians, became subject to the apartheid regime. And despite that, I think the DNA of the Indian diaspora stood out for the incredible achievements that the Indian community in South Africa has achieved despite so much discrimination within the law. One of the things that apartheid did, though, was unite our community in South Africa, and I think for the better. And of course, it meant that the segregation ensured that Indians in South Africa have maintained a very strong cultural link to India and our Indian heritage. However, things were pretty bad in South Africa and my parents chose to move to Australia in the late 70s, early 80s, for which I'm extremely grateful, of course. And that comes back to the theme that so many people have talked about today. That culture of gratitude was instilled in me, and the word Seva's been used, and I think that's reflected in my commitment to giving back to Australia, which has led to my roles in not-for-profit organisations throughout my career. So working in the arts, the independent ABC organisation, and now in healthcare. So it's a long and complicated journey, but many common themes, and I think the strength of commitment to giving back is something that is really inherent in so much of all of our diaspora's contribution to the communities in which we live.
It's very interesting, of course. You know, when I was listening to the previous panel and I saw the impact that our diaspora is making on the world, I thought it was quite interesting with your story as well, and how two of the gentlemen on the panel before us are bringing AI into the healthcare system. So I was wondering, is this something that has reached Australia again already? Or how are you incorporating it? And is the Indian diaspora in any way assisting you in that?
So the Indian diaspora in Australia is now the second largest overseas born residential population in Australia, which is an incredible 5-fold increase in the last 7 years. Only second to UK-born Australians, which is quite incredible. And with that, yes, within healthcare, of course, so many of the Indians in Australia came as professionals, as teachers and doctors in the 60s. So up till then, there hadn't been as much migration from India or of people of Indian origin to Australia. But in the late 60s, there was a bit of an influx, and those were largely professionals and many, many doctors. And so what's interesting, working now at St Vincent's Health Australia and as CEO of the St Vincent's Curran Foundation, the philanthropic arm, and St Vincent's is the largest not-for-profit healthcare system in Australia. We've got public hospitals, 10 private hospitals, 26 aged care centres, St Vincent's at home, and virtual care. So, and we're not for profit, so philanthropy plays a great role in that. But with the advancement in technology and, you know, the huge challenges facing healthcare, which we're also hearing from across the globe, Australia has had some incredible innovation and invention despite being such a small country. We only have 26 million or so people. So almost 1 million Indians is a lot of people by Australian terms. But with that culture of innovation and invention, I think that's a shared spirit of entrepreneurism and innovation across Indians and Australians that could stand us all in very good stead. You'd be probably surprised to know that things like mass penicillin vaccinations, Howard Florey, the first ultrasound in the world, the first heart-in-the-box organ care system, which was actually developed in our system with one of our 6 co-located research institutes. They were all Australian firsts. The opportunity for Australia, though, really relies on collaboration because we are so small. And one of the things that we see is the opportunity for partnership in that innovation space. We need venture capital to support innovation and development of AI, innovation in healthcare, and philanthropy is playing a very big role in trying to help to fund that in constrained government funding and even private healthcare funding situation. So I think the opportunity for the Indian diaspora with direct connections to India, but also with the wider diaspora through the US, the UK, and other countries, is a real opportunity for connection and collaboration for Australian healthcare as well.
Great, very interesting, very interesting.
But Warsha, you were telling me about the situation with healthcare in Suriname and the challenges you face there currently.
So, about 2 years ago, there was oil and gas discovered in Suriname. So a lot of people have been focusing on my country. But with that, of course, comes focus on things like healthcare that is not properly developed. What's been happening lately is that we've had a lot of brain drain in our country. So we currently suffer a health crisis. So things like AI-driven technology, which would greatly benefit a country like, or actually all of the islands in the Caribbean, where human capital is restricted. Because we have money, we have hospitals, but we don't have the people to actually do the diagnostics. So the Diaspora is I would encourage you to take a look at the region and to look at our hospitals and to try and automate, or at least bring your businesses to the Caribbean, because we are very interested in this technology. All of the Caribbean together is not even one city in India, so I understand that it might not have been something in your forefront. But there is lots of opportunity, of course, and like you say, Sewa is one of our core values that is taught to us. A few weeks ago, I was at a conference where somebody had developed AI technology for a device that's about this big that incorporates an entire lab. So in countries like mine, where some of its population lives in dense forests, it is very important we get this kind of technology to them. These people don't always have the chance to go to the city, to go to a big hospital. So we have unfortunate high fatality rates for things such as maternity, for cancer, for simple non-communicable diseases, such as cardiovascular diseases, such as diabetes. So you would not think something like that would affect a developed country or developing countries, but it does, because our people don't have access to all of this technology as easily as the rest of the world. So I commend you, the gentleman that we're talking about AI in healthcare, that you're bringing this kind of healthcare to people in rural areas that don't always have the chance to visit the bigger hospitals.
But your family has a fascinating background in terms of building up business in that region. So, you know, obviously doing business and developing business is something that's in your genes as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. My father started the company where I'm the CEO currently, about 50 years ago. And he literally rose out of poverty. So he was a customs agent, or actually a carrier, people that would carry the sugar on his back. And during one of the political revolutions, he had got a chance to actually try and invest in agencies outside of Suriname. From that, because we have a strong history of trading in our family, well, actually my father, who taught it to me, we've expanded to about 7 countries with about 1,200 employees in about 30 companies. But all of that always goes back to what he taught me as a little girl, is that you have to be resilient, you have to be diligent, and not all money is good, he would always tell me. You know, you need to earn money that is blessed. So always do good and never try to trample over somebody just to earn a buck.
That's very good advice. So we've talked about a little bit about gratitude, and obviously I've talked a little bit about my sense of gratitude towards the country that welcomed our family, Australia. But would you like to tell us a little bit about the sense of gratitude that you feel for the opportunities that have been created and how your family is contributing to the community as well?
Right. So my father would always tell me he's very grateful for the Lara Albuk, which is the ship that carried our family from India to the Caribbean. This ship took our ancestors not only to Suriname but also to Trinidad and Guyana. So this is what we call the British West Indies, right? So this is where most of the Indian people are populated. And you can see that our influence on the country has been great. You can find us in politics. You can find us in philanthropy, which is, we actually have a few Nobel Prize winners. One is from Trinidad, who has written about identity and displacement. You have somebody like my father who has donated a lot to hurricane relief efforts in the islands, in the little islands that don't have enough recovery possibilities. And you can find us in agriculture. One of the biggest initiatives of the CARICOM lately has been to try and reduce the import of food. So countries like ours that have about 30 to 40% of population that are Indian, we are actually a food basket of the Caribbean now, because we had the instruction about how to actually plant rice, how to plant soy, how to plant sugar, wheat, and all of that. So we're very grateful for, even though it wasn't exactly our choice to move to that side of the world, we are grateful that we had the opportunity, or that we had the means to try and evolve to who we are today.
That's really interesting, because in 2023, the Australian Local Hero of the Year was a gentleman named Arnab Singh, who started a group called Turbans for Australia, and they are famous around the country for the work that they've done in helping people by giving them food, cooking, and putting together food parcels for during the bushfires and floods, and they actually go to remote areas where the natural disasters are. And also throughout COVID, they did an incredible job. And the reputation that has come with that, they've got a lot of profile for the way that Indians give back to the communities that they live in. And that's such an important part of, obviously, this massive explosion. When we first went to Australia, we had to take our own spices, bring them from South Africa, get them from relatives in India. There was hardly any Indians there. And so, with this increase of the diaspora in Australia, the role that Australians are increasingly playing because of their high-profile positions in business, in government, as philanthropists, it's obviously quite an important stage of our community establishing our reputation and continuing to ensure the strong relationship, people-to-people links between our countries. And of course, I don't know about cricket in Suriname, but is it a thing?
No, actually it isn't. It isn't.
Oh.
Because we were dropped in a Dutch part of the world, right? So if any of you watch soccer, I'm here. Don't ask me anything about cricket.
Well, I'm Australian, Indian, and South African, so I couldn't have this conversation without mentioning cricket. And of course, we've recently had the Indian cricket team for the summer in Australia, and it was the largest turnout of spectators for many, many years at the Test series, and ultimately for Australians and Indians, if there's anything that can unify us, it's definitely our love of cricket and sport. And I know that the Centre for Australian-Indian Relations, which has been set up recently in the last 3 years, I think, is actually sponsoring a sports summit a couple of sports summits in India, because Brisbane has the Olympics coming in 2030, and through sport and through cricket, that's another huge connector between our countries, and certainly from a soft power point of view is yet another really strong connection and platform from which I think a lot of business and collaboration and strengthening of relationships could be done. I think we're on the brink of a new era. The government is now moving to even strengthen the trade flow between our countries with a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, which goes beyond the existing trade sort of agreements, which is really exciting as well. So I suppose from an Indian who's come by a very circuitous route to Australia, it's a time that we all are looking forward to much stronger relationships and continued partnership. And of course, for Indians living there, it's a very exciting time.
Well, thank you, Shanthini. And to wrap up, I would say our story is one of perseverance, about diligence, and about philanthropy. So with that, I hope we inspired you to give back to your community so you can see the impact that we have done as a whole, right? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Warsha and Shanthini. Thank you very much.